This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to have you with us on the show today. This half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet. Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews. The best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And now ready to drink cocktails. Jack Daniels, High Noon, great ones. Right? At the Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury. The beverage, and the pickle bar, by the way, led by the Barrels and the Dills. Can never forget that. Indeed, second to none. Yeah, High Noon, Crown Royal, Jack Daniels, and, of course, the pickle bar. Once again, led by the Barrels and the Dills. Indeed, second to none. All at Brewers Outlet. Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Stock up now for final weekend of the NFL season. And stock up for the Orange Bowl. Yeah. It's quite the combination we got going here. Yeah. Okay.
We do have Neal now, Steve.
Yes, of course we do. Yeah. One second here. Well, we mentioned this half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. The great Neal Coolong joins us as we get ready for the final weekend of the NFL season. Neal, first of all, welcome. Happy New Year to you. It means a lot to have you.
Happy New Year to you guys as well. Thank you for having me.
The Steelers, to me in the past month, have proven that the NFL playoff number is too big. Your thoughts?
It's funny. I just got into a long conversation in regards to college football's playoffs, kind of what's happening there, the hoopla, celebrating everything for a quarterfinal win. What we're seeing this weekend is the downside of it. You know, obviously this is all in a straight line. You can't truly weigh one versus the other, but the desired effect here is to have games when the intensity is at its highest. Adding games counterintuitively takes away from that because you get this weekend when you have to kind of reshuffle the whole schedule and you look at the whole deck, there's a bunch of teams playing a meaningless game. Now, I know we've had this conversation before, and usually it's in line with the Pro Bowl. Football is not an exhibition game. Football is the most active sport. You can't play it for fun. You can't play for nothing. It's got to mean something. They do a lot. It's a high-risk, high-contact, high-intensity game. To not really have it matter to the fans, you know, keep that in mind. I'm not suggesting the players don't have a lot to play for. Coaches are coaching for jobs. Players are playing for contracts. But the fan is looking at, you know, the idea of wanting their team to lose so they can increase their draft stock.
I know.
That's really about it. And what is that? Is that fun? Is that enjoyable? At this point, it just feels very long for way more than half the league. Now, there's some fun in there. You know, you get some interesting matchups and who's going to finish where. But keep in mind, it's not common to have two 14-win teams heading into the last weekend of the season. When you have that playing for the number one seed in the NFC, there's something to play for. But then there's, I don't even know, whoever the Panthers are playing this weekend, I'm sure that game doesn't matter a whole lot.
I don't think they know either.
So
I don't think they know either.
Now maybe not. Now it just seems bloated, But when you think about adding another game, how exciting it is, that's awesome in September. It just, and again, you can't physically weigh the game anymore, but you want the game to be more stacked at the beginning than at the end. The end, it doesn't really matter. We know who's in the playoffs, and every year there's not going to be a guarantee that there's going to be a high leverage type of situation in the league for fans to be interested in. But we can say for certainty, more than half of the league, the game doesn't matter at all, and that includes some playoff teams. So then you've got Saquon Barkley is on the doorstep of a long-standing record that they're not even going to go for. And
right.
What fun is that? You're going to have situations like that across, I think, the league, and there's going to be a while until you kind of adjust records and expectations based on the 17, soon-to-be 18-game season, and what those records really mean and how they're going to kind of reconcile one versus the other. Eric Dickerson's record stands whether Barkley plays or not, in my opinion, because he didn't break it in 16 games. And I don't even know if Dickerson played 16 games that year. You put all these things together, just the lengthening of the schedule gets thinned out to the point where, yes, clearly it's a money grab. That's what you really want. But I feel like the integrity of the game gets diminished for this week. And I'm curious to see what the ratings are going to be outside of Sunday Night Football.
Right. Joe Burrow, he's got Chase, he has Higgins, he's got Mike Gesicki. Their defense, which is playing a little bit better, but they're really an issue. How about that? How amazing is it what he's done to at least get them after a poor start as a team into this position?
You saw an amazing amount of consistency. We've known his ability. We get the value that he's going to bring to his team. And that, of course, is my way of leading into I don't see any particular reason why, by a pure definition of what a most valuable player award would be given for, he should not be in consideration for that. We know that. For those who watched Steelers games this year, we know that because we saw the first time these two teams played.
Right.
Honestly, I've been watching football for a long time. I know enough to know that I know nothing about it. What I do know is what we saw from the Cincinnati Bengals defense in their first game against the Steelers this year was atrocious. I don't know if I have ever seen a defense play as poorly as they did in that game.
Right.
And Burrow had them competing in the fourth quarter. If Cincinnati's defense played at anything resembling a professional level, they probably win the game. There have been a few of those types of games this year.
Yeah.
He does things very well, and to be fair, he turned the ball over 3 times in that game. The Steelers' defense made 3 plays on him. That was about it. But that's modern football. You get 3 takeaways, you're probably going to win the game. Otherwise, a sterling performance from Burrow. Now, I'm not even saying that was one of his best games, but he was outstanding. He has played as well, I think, as any quarterback has in the league overall. And when you talk about most valuable, if they're on the doorstep of the playoffs versus clinching 1, 2, 3 seed like the other ones are, take him off the team, and what is it? I don't think they win 2 games.
Right.
For at least from the level of defense that we saw against Pittsburgh, they're a dumpster fire. And we've seen Cincinnati not play well when Burrow isn't in there before. So it's the value that he brings is incredible. Is he the MVP? I don't know. I'll leave it to people to gnash teeth and argue about it. But he's had a pretty spectacular season, and that's right in line with what we expect from him now. Anytime you play a guy like that, you're in trouble. That's a tough assignment for anybody, and it's certainly going to be a tough assignment for Pittsburgh this weekend. This is the one guy you don't want to see in a situation where they have to win it. In Pittsburgh, just for the sake of history, not that any opponent in the playoffs is the team you want to play, but you really want to play Houston. You don't want to play the other teams in the AFC right now. Right. Just judging by Pittsburgh, the way that they have gone, Houston is a far better matchup for them than anybody else. So this game is critically important. And they've got a pretty tough opponent with something to play for. So it's going to be tough. Interesting Saturday night game. They get another one down on Sunday. What is that, 4 in a row, I think, now?
Yeah.
We'll see how they adjust to it with some time off. But they've played pretty poor football for a month now. Wrong opponent, wrong time. I don't like the feeling of this one at all.
Let me ask you something. You're in a GM position. What do you do with George Pickens? I mean, there's no doubt he has talent, but he's one of those scary type of characters where you don't know if he's going to turn on his own teammates. What do you do with him?
Put me on the spot here. Yes, it doesn't need to be said. The talent is outstanding. I was screaming that to the rooftops draft night. When he was 12, 13 picks away, I was shocked he hadn't been taken yet.
Right.
He has top 15 pick talent.
Right.
We knew that about him. And he was young. He didn't even play very much. So it's kind of like he could get even better. He's probably going to get even better. The natural talent he has for the game overrides even the immense physical talent that he has. Right. He has the little things. He tracks a ball better than any receiver in the league. And I think that was true the second he stepped onto the field in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He is as pure a deep threat as you're going to see. And he's big. He's got long speed. He does everything in that sense well. Mm-hmm. But covering him for this long, watching him, it seems to me this is all he really wants to be. A big play, deep play, combat catch kind of guy. I don't see him as somebody you can reliably get 7-8 targets a game to. They get 6, and he does very well. If they don't want to cover him with a top-high safety, you're going to be in trouble. And the value that brings to everybody else around him is great. But if you don't get him the ball, you're going to have a problem. Even when you do get him the ball, it seems like there's a problem. You don't know what's coming. Exactly as you put it. He's kind of scary. If it's me, I would probably do exactly what the Steelers tried to do, which was find a better, more suitable, more stable, long-term wide receiver and not force George Pickens to leverage us next year in contract negotiations. Right. In other words, I would want to go after Brandon Ayuk. You know, if this is this time last year, I'm putting together my offseason plan. I would want to target somebody like that, bring them in and give them a big contract. Now I can negotiate with Pickens and we can see what we can come up with. But if Pickens walks or doesn't want the money that I'm willing to pay him, certainly in the form of a guarantee, I've still got somebody. Because I don't know how much money you can really guarantee him. I don't know how long the contract can be with him. You're just in a really tough spot. He's just, I don't know. I'm biting my tongue. I don't want to go too deep into it, but he's not a normal dude. You know, there's something there, immense physical talent, but how much are you betting on that? You know, he gets his for sure. He's a big-time player, but he hasn't contributed to an all-around offense in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't seem like he has the desire to block downfield the way that he used to. I would think with his size, his strength, his explosion, he would be a killer on a hard slant. He never runs that. It seems like he wants to be a stationary target and play 500 against his opponent all the time. I don't know how good of an all-around receiver he could be. I just know that in the last 3 years he's had the opportunity to become that, and he hasn't. So I feel like somebody's going to pay him that $32 million range a year, and I don't think it's going to be Pittsburgh. They'll get what they can out of him. I don't think they're going to trade him unless they get blown away by an offer. But what they would really like is to add a more stable, franchise-level type of wide receiver in this offseason from free agency. You know, the name I come to is the one we're going to see this weekend. I think the Steelers would absolutely love to have T. Higgins on their team.
Yes, he's a good player.
I'd even go as far as to say I think Cincinnati's going to tag him again just so Pittsburgh doesn't get him. So they can trade him to somewhere that isn't Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh would be an absolutely perfect fit for him. He would get the ball a ton. He would be the man here. He would run all routes, all distances. And with Pickens, they'd have a formidable combination at receiver for one season. Maybe they tag Pickens after that. I don't know. But I would imagine Pickens would be rather upset about the whole thing anyway. But they would need somebody more stable long term, and I think Higgins would be their guy. If they could do that, they would love to do that. They tried to do it with Ayuk. They sniffed around Devontae Adams. They're looking for another guy to pay, and I think that's because right now George Pickens has them under his thumb. There's not really anything the Steelers can do from a leverage perspective. He can, say, look, I'm not signing anything until you give me this. I'll play this year out. You're not going to tag me. You don't have anybody else. There's no other option here. So they're in a tough spot. They need to bring in somebody else. And I think if Higgins sniffs the free agent market, I don't think he's going to be on there for more than 10 minutes before Pittsburgh gives him a deal. If that is what ends up happening, he's going to be a Steeler. But I think the Bengals are going to tag him again and try to trade him, get some assets back because they've got to get a lot younger. But if it's me, I want to bring in somebody like that just because I might tag Pickens 2 years at what would it be, 18, 19 million. I'm good with that right now where I sit, but I'm not giving him 4 years, 32 million per. That's just too much for what we've seen. I need to see him grow up. I need to see him become a team leader. I don't think he can do that.
Right. So the NFL has become, instead of trickle down to college and high school, quarterback-wise, it's become trickle up. The way high schools play, the way colleges play with their quarterbacks now, and so forth. And we're seeing with guys like Daniels, now we're seeing it with Michael Penix. I mean, how important has that been that the NFL's been able to adjust its philosophy and think trickle up and not force players to play in a certain way?
That's such an interesting question, mostly because let's look at C.J. Stroud. Not considered to be, at least not a consensus top pick coming out. He goes 2 overall. I don't necessarily know that was like overdrafting, but I don't think people felt that he had an incredibly high ceiling. He tears the league up his rookie year. They gave it to him, Stroud was already elite. Stroud was everything last year. Houston was unstoppable. This is the team of the future. What happened this year? Teams studied the tape that he put out.
Yeah.
And good quarterback, but he's not what he was as a rookie. He's not catching teams by surprise. He's not just, flat out crushing them over the course of a game like he did last year. The game caught up to him. And that's always what's going to happen. Offense is going to be a step ahead of the defense until the defense gets a chance to evaluate what happened and adjust what they're doing. So, in other words, he doesn't get 17 games unchecked and unchallenged. Now he's going to really struggle 3 or 4 of those games, and you'll see his overall production match that. His stats look like that right now. He's doing very well in some areas.
Yeah.
But probably a bit less than he did last season in a lot of other areas. Let's see what happens with Jaden Daniels next year. There's a lot to like about Jaden Daniels. I was a big fan of his. One of the few people that said I'd actually have a very, very difficult time taking Caleb Williams over him. And long term, I still think I might go with Daniels. But you're going to see what's commonly thought of as the sophomore slump. You'll see that with him next year, not because he's bad, but because he got put into a situation and his best asset outside of his natural talent, which both of them have loads of, but you have the element of surprise. You don't have a whole lot of film, and there's not a ton of time in the season to really dissect everything. But by the time the next season rolls around, Dallas is not going to the playoffs. If Mike Zimmer is still their defensive coordinator, I'm sure they're going to spend time watching Jaden Daniels. They're going to figure out what they want to do against him because they have a lot more time to kind of come up with different schemes. Their personnel will change. some of that is based on their divisional opponent. They know they're going to play Jaden Daniels twice. This is a guy that can do this thing that we want to do against him in particular. Let's sign him. Those kinds of moves come, and then the quarterback has to kind of counterpunch against that. Now, what's the point in relation to your question? You can force the quarterback up. How long do they stay up is the question. You know, it's more about the long-term success. Now, there are plenty of guys that have, you know, phenomenal rookie years or first years, whichever one it is. They might take a little bit of a step back, but they can, you know, ascend their level. On the other hand, you've got Patrick Mahomes, who hasn't had a bad season relative to anything in the NFL, and you've got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, who were pretty inadequate quarterbacks the first years that they played, and they grew into MVP-level players. Joe Burrow got hurt a bunch early, but was always effective, and when he plays, he's utterly dominant. These are high-level guys. Now, I'm not saying none of the younger guys can do that. I'm just saying, by and large, what we see is the guy that has the really good rookie season tends to take more of a step back, and it's because now they have in that second year, that's when they're paying the price for being put out there early. And there's evidence to show guys that sit and don't play right away can do better when they start, and they can do worse. It's more about what's happening when you're the starter over 34 games, not just he got to sit and watch. Now, game one, he's really good. It's about where he is on game 34 nowadays, in my opinion. Put the whole thing together. Don't look at just any one segment of time. There's just not enough of it out there, but just enough where defenses have caught up to you. They know your tendencies and what is being called for you. They know what you're good at. They know what you're not good at. And then you need to improve your game. You got to get better. You have to continue to evolve and improve yourself and put it back on the defense to try to stop you.
As always, brilliant, my friend. I appreciate you so much. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.